The Gulf Screen Guild Theater. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of your neighborhood good Gulf dealer and the Gulf Oil Companies, welcome back to the Gulf Screen Guild Theater. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for our last production of the season, we bring you The Shop Around the Corner.
The snow is snowing and the wind is blowing. I can weather the storm. What do I care how much it may storm? Got my love to keep me warm.
Well, the shop around the corner, they call the story. And do you know whose shop? Matthew Check and Company. Novelties and leatherware. Best of its kind in Budapest. Wonderful values at all times. In fact, I don't know how Matthew Check and Company does it.
Just a moment, please. Who are you?
Who? Me? Well, I'm Matthew Check. Well, anyway, it all happened in my store. Practically all. That's why I'm telling it. Well, this story of two young people of whom I'm very fond, Clara and Martin. Clara is very attractive and an excellent sales girl, but Martin and Clara haven't gotten on at all from the very first day she came to work for me. Professional jealousy on Martin's part because no head clerk likes to have an assistant, especially such a pretty assistant, outsell him.
Cha-ching!
Oh, Miss Novak, whatever become of those musical cigarette boxes that nobody ever buys?
I just sold the last one, Mr. Martin.
Oh.
Cha-ching!
Can I show you something, madam?
No, thank you. I prefer to have the young lady wait on me.
Oh.
Cha-ching!
Well, I've had a pretty good day. My sales come to exactly 176 kronen.
My sales come to 250 kronen.
Oh.
Yes, you can see easily how these little occurrences would hardly make for a beautiful relationship, but all this didn't seem important to Martin these days. He had something on his mind. Martin was living in a romantic plane, far above everyday routine of Matthew Check and Company. I found that out when I chanced to overhear him talking with a fellow clerk named Pirowitch.
Want to hear something nice, Pirovich?
Yes, what is it?
Oh, it's a letter from a girl. Now listen, my heart was trembling as I walked into the post office, and there you were, lying in box 237, and I took you out of your envelope and read you. Oh, dear friend.
Well, what is all this?
Well, you see, I was looking through the ads in the Sunday paper, and I got on the wrong page, and I ran across this ad. Here, let me show it to you.
Foreign girl wishes to correspond on cultural subjects anonymously with intelligent, sympathetic young man. Address, dear friend, Post Office 15, Box 237.
Now, we've exchanged 4 letters, and Pirovich, she's no ordinary girl. Now, listen to this. Are you tall or short? Are your eyes brown? Are they blue? Now, don't tell me. What does it matter so long as our minds meet?
You're right, it is beautiful.
Now, listen. What are men and women for but to raise above the stupid necessities of an 8-hour day? Excuse me, Pirovich. Miss Novak, where do you think you're going?
I'm going home, Mr. Martin. It's 6 o'clock.
It's 5 minutes of 6. The store's not closed for another 5 minutes. I'm afraid, Miss Novak, that you don't take your work very seriously.
Oh, don't I?
No, and I don't like your attitude. And while I think of it, I don't like the clothes you've been wearing in the store. For instance, that yellow blouse with the light green dots you had on yesterday.
That was a green blouse with light yellow dots. And everybody else thought it was very becoming. And I don't remember that I ever remarked about your neckties. And believe me, Mr. Martin, if you think I couldn't say anything about your neckties, so I'll thank you to leave my blouse alone. It's none of your business.
Well, I'm sorry, but Mr. Metrosek seems to think that it is my business.
Oh, yes, that's right. I'm working under you. Well, from now on, I'll telephone you every morning to describe just exactly what I'm going to wear. And before I select my next season's wardrobe, my dressmaker will submit samples to you. Imagine you dictating what I should wear.
Well, for heaven's sake, I don't care what you wear. If you want to look like a pony in a circus, well, all right.
Listen, I sold just as much goods as anybody else in this place. 197 kronen isn't bad for a rainy Friday 3 weeks before Christmas. Did I tell you that to Mr. Matuchek?
I did. He said, tell her not to come in that blouse anymore.
Tell him I won't.
Come. Always fighting, you two. Why don't you ever try to get along better?
I'd like to know who can get along with a man like him. It is now exactly 6 o'clock, Mr. Martin. May I go?
Yes, Miss Novak.
Oh, thank you very much.
Stubborn little female. I don't know why we'd ever hire that girl.
Now, don't get yourself all worked up. Calm down.
What do I care about a girl like that anyway?
Forget her. Tell me more about that girl you've been writing to, dear friend.
Oh, Pirovich. She's wonderful. In our letters, we come to the subject of love on a very cultural level.
What else can you do in a letter?
Pirovich, she's the most wonderful girl in the world. She has such ideals, such a point of view on things. She's so far above the girls today, there's no comparison.
You really like her, don't you?
Well, I hope I will.
What do you mean? You love a girl and you don't know if you like her?
Pirovich, that's just the question. You see, I haven't met her yet.
After all this time?
I postponed it again and again. I'm scared, Pirovich. This girl thinks I'm the most wonderful person in the world, and there's a chance she might be disappointed. Tonight, I'm taking a risk. I'm meeting her tonight at 8 o'clock in the cafe. She's going to have a copy of Tolstoy's Anna Karenina and a red carnation of a bookmark. Oh, I haven't slept for days.
I'm sure she'll be beautiful.
Well, not too beautiful.
What do you want, a homely girl?
Just a lovely average girl, that's all.
Ding, 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 ding.
That's the clock in the back of the shop, striking 8 p.m. And that's exactly the hour Martin was to meet dear friend for the first time at the cafe. Well, when the time came, Martin didn't feel quite so brave, so he asked Pirovich to come along to give him moral support. And even after he got there, he was afraid to go in. He stood with Pirovich in a shadow outside the front window and peered in. He wanted Pirovich to see if he could spot a girl with a red carnation for a bookmark.
See anything?
I think I see her. Yeah, under the window. Yeah, Anna Karenina by Tolstoy, and a carnation.
Well, Pirovich, how does she look? Is she pretty?
Very pretty. I would say she looks, she has a little of that coloring of Clara.
Clara? Oh, you Miss Novak from the shop.
Well, Martin, you must admit that Clara is a good-looking girl, and personally, I've always found her a very likable girl.
Well, this is a fine time to be talking about Miss Novak.
Well, if you don't like Miss Novak, I can tell you right now you won't like this girl.
Why?
Because it is Miss Novak.
Can't remember a worse December. Watch those icicles form. What do I care how those icicles form? I've got my love to keep me warm.
Well, Martin was all for turning on his heel and starting home, but his friend Pirovich pointed out that Miss Novak had written those letters and really wasn't far to leave her waiting there. Much against his will, Martin finally agreed to go inside the cafe and talk to Miss Novak.
Well, hello, Miss Novak.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Martin.
Well, this is quite a coincidence. I had an appointment. You haven't seen Miss Purovich by any chance, have you?
No, I haven't.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess I'll wait. Mind if I sit down here?
Yes, I do. Mr. Martin, I have an appointment too.
Well, there's no harm in just sitting here, is there? Oh, I see you're reading Tolstoy's Anna Karenina.
Yes, anything against it?
Oh no, I've never expected to meet you in a cafe with Tolstoy. It's quite a surprise.
Well, there are many things you don't know about me, Mr. Martin.
Have you read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky?
No, I haven't.
Well, I have. Lots of things you don't know about me too, Miss Novak. You know, people seldom go to trouble of scratching the surface of things they can't find the inward truth.
Mr. Martin, I wouldn't care at all to scratch your surface. Probably because I know exactly what I'd find. A handbag instead of a suitcase, a soul instead of a heart, instead of an intellect, a cigarette lighter that doesn't work.
Yes, that's very well put. Comparing my intellect with a cigarette lighter that doesn't work. That's a very interesting mixture of poetry and meanness.
Meanness.
Oh, now don't misunderstand me, Miss Novak.
I thought I told you I was expecting somebody.
Listen, if your party doesn't show up,
My party will show up. It's really not necessary for you to entertain me.
well, let me tell you something, Miss Novak. You may have beautiful thoughts, but you hide them. And as far as your actions are concerned, you're cold and snippy like an old maid. I have a terrible time finding a man to fall in love with you.
An old maid? No man will ever fall in love with me. Really, Mr. Martin, you're getting funnier and funnier every minute. You know, I could show you letters that would open your eyes. No, maybe not. You probably wouldn't understand what's in them. They're written by a type of man so far above you that it's ridiculous. I have to laugh when I think of you calling me an old maid. You insignificant clerk.
And so ends Act 1 of our Gulf production. During the brief moment before the curtain rises on Act 2, I know you'd like to hear a word about the man who's really behind the Gulf Theater, your neighborhood good Gulf dealer. He hopes you'll be listening in every week, and he hopes too that you'll take advantage of all he can do to give you more miles of motoring satisfaction. He's ready with that helpful Gulf service with Gulf gasolines and Gulf motor oils. Next time you're out driving, stop in at the sign of the Gulf Orange Disc and meet your neighborhood good Gulf dealer.
Off with my overcoat, off with my gloves. Who needs an overcoat? I'm burning with love. My heart's on fire, and the fire gets higher, so I can weather the storm. What do I care how much it may storm? I've got my love to keep me warm.
And now we return to the second chapter of our story, The Shop Around the Corner.
Well, thank you. I'll take it over from here. It was a terrible blow to Martin when he looked in the window of the cafe and discovered the unknown girl he'd been writing for so many weeks was none other than his fellow clerk, Clara. But it was more of a blow to Clara when, after Martin left, she waited 2 hours and that her dream prince didn't show up. She took it hard. Poor child. You know how the dreamer types are. She even stayed home from work. She was so upset. Martin felt pretty bad about this, so he decided he ought to call her, strictly, in the line of business, of course.
Well, good evening, Miss Novak.
Oh, Good evening, Mr. Martin. Come in.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm all right, Mr. Martin. Sorry I couldn't come to work.
Oh, that's all right. You must take care of yourself.
I'll be all right in a day or two.
That doesn't mean you should neglect yourself. Like you see, I feel pretty responsible for the whole thing.
You? Oh, no, Mr. Martin. I think I can relieve your mind. It wasn't your fault at all. No, there's a much bigger reason, unfortunately. A psychological reason, but it's my personal problem and I'll come out of it. It's just one of those things.
Well, I'm very sorry. That's a real shame that you have to go through all this, so long as it's only psychological.
Only psychological? Mr. Martin, it's true that we are in the same room, but we are not in the same planet.
Although I'm a victim of your remark, I must admire your exquisite way of expressing yourself. You certainly know how to put a man in his place.
Yes? Come in.
Here, Clara. A special delivery letter has just come for you.
Oh, really? Thank you, Aunt Anna.
I hope it's good news.
Oh, well, Mr. Martin, it certainly was kind of you to drop in, but I don't want to spoil your evening.
Oh no, I have lots of time. You go right ahead with your letter, paying no attention to me.
Well, if you don't mind. Ah, wonderful news, Mr. Martin. You know, if I weren't feeling so wonderful right now, I could be very mad with you because you really spoiled my date the other night. I wasn't so wrong when I asked you not to sit down at my table. You see, this gentleman did come to the cafe. He looked in the window, saw us together, and misunderstood.
Oh, you mean he thought you and I were friends?
Yeah, he must have. Listen to what he writes. Tell me, who is this very attractive young man? He's just the type women fall for.
Sorry I caused you so much trouble.
I'll straighten it out. Let him feel a little jealous. It won't hurt him.
Doesn't seem to be much of a man, this friend of yours. He walks away. He's afraid to come over to the table because another man's sitting there.
Mr. Martin, he was not afraid, I can assure you. He's tactful. He's sensitive. He's not the kind of man who would sit at a table uninvited.
Really?
It's difficult to explain a man like him to a man like you. Where you would say black, he would say white. Where you would say ugly, he says beautiful. And when you would say old maid, he says, well, listen, eyes that sparkle with fire and mystery, vivacious, fascinating. Oh, he says I make him think of gypsy music.
Well, I suppose there's nothing left for me to say except that I wish you a very Merry Christmas, both of you.
Thank you, Mr. Martin.
Well, good night, Miss Novak.
Good night, Mr. Martin.
Well, Clara showed up for work, all right, and worked like fury. She told everybody, including Martin and me, that she had an engagement for dinner on Christmas Eve, and she was all excited about it. Well, when the shop closed after record-breaking Christmas Eve, only Clara and Martin were left.
Before you go, Miss Novak, do you want to see something? How do you like this gold locket?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Oh, why don't you try it on? Sort of like to see what it looks like on a girl.
I didn't know you had a girlfriend.
Oh, yes. Probably not easy for you to imagine that somebody
Oh,
like a man might type, but
Mr. Martin, don't. Let's start all over again. It's Christmas and I'd like to be friends with you. Do you mind if I tell you something?
no, not at all.
When I first started to work here, something very strange happened to me. I found myself looking at you again and again. I just couldn't take my eyes off you. All the time, I was saying to myself, Clara Novak, what's the matter with you? Mr. Martin's not a particularly attractive man. I hope you don't mind.
No, not at all.
And now comes a paradox. I caught myself falling for you.
I can't believe it.
In those first few weeks, there are moments when you could have swept me off my feet. Oh, well, you see, I was a different girl then. I was rather naive. All my knowledge came from books that I just read. And I just read this novel about an actress who, when she wanted to arouse a man's interest, she treated them like a dog.
Oh, that's true. You treated me like a dog, all right.
Yes, but instead of licking my hand, you barked.
Well, that's all forgotten now, isn't it?
Oh well. Now you go to see your girlfriend. By the way, is it serious?
Yes, yes, very.
Oh, we might both be engaged Monday morning.
Well, I think we will.
Oh, I don't want you to misunderstand. In my case, I just say it might happen. You see, he's coming to my house tonight to see me at 8 o'clock.
As a matter of fact, I can tell you that it will happen.
How do you know?
No, I won't get into that.
Mr. Martin, what do you mean it will happen?
Well, I might as well just tell you. He came to see me.
Who?
Well, your fiance. He came last night. Now, you shouldn't have told him who I am, you see. I spent a very uncomfortable hour. He apparently didn't believe it when you wrote him that I meant nothing to you, you see.
I can't get it into my head. Coming to see you? Oh, no, that doesn't sound like him at all.
Oh, no, but I straightened everything out. It's all right. Now, don't worry. In a little while, you'll be Mrs. Popkin.
Mrs. Popkin?
Popkin, why, wasn't that his name? Popkin? That's what he told me.
Oh, Popkin. Oh, yes, that's right. Popkin.
And a very nice fellow. Very nice. I congratulate you.
Yes, thank you. I think he's a very attractive man, don't you?
Oh, yes, for his type, I would say yes.
Would you really classify him as a definite type?
Absolutely. Don't you try and change him now. Don't put him on a diet.
Would you call him fat?
Well, that's a matter of opinion. Now, if a girl, and if I were a girl and I had to choose between a young, good for nothing with lots of hair and a fine, solid, mature citizen, I'd pick Matthias Popkin every time.
But he has a rather fine mind, don't you think? Didn't he impress you as being rather witty?
Well, he struck me as being sort of depressed. But of course, it's unfair to judge a man who's out of a job.
The job? Why, he never told me.
Well, that goes to show how sensitive he is. But don't worry, he feels that both of you can live a very nice life on your
This
salary.
is terrible. Oh, I'm outraged. I never dreamed he was materialistic like this. If you could read his letters, such ideals. Why, I could quote you passages. To love is to be two and yet one. A man
A man and a
a...
woman, blended as angels, heaven itself.
How did you know that?
Well, that's by Victor Hugo. He stole that.
Oh no, I thought I was the inspiration of all those beautiful thoughts. Now I find that he was just copying words out of a book. He probably didn't mean a single one of them.
Oh, I'm sorry you feel this way. I hate to think I spoiled your Christmas.
That's all right. I really ought to thank you. Well, I guess I'd better get going.
Oh, Clara, if I would have known in the beginning that what you really felt about me, things would have been different. You know what I wish would happen? When your bells ring at 8 o'clock tonight and you open the door, instead of Popkin, I come in.
It's very sweet of you to try and cheer me up, but I think we better say goodnight. You have an engagement, and so have I, and we shouldn't be late. Ding, 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 ding. Please go away, Mr. Popkin. You? What are you doing here?
Popkin's right on time.
He's not here yet, and they'll thank you not to joke about it.
Clara, couldn't I take his place?
Please, you're only making it more difficult for me.
Oh, Clara, my darling, dear, sweet Carla, I can't stand it any longer. Please take your key.
Please?
Open post office box 237
No.
and take me out of my envelope.
You mustn't. Box 237?
Dear friend.
You, dear friend?
Oh, my darling.
Yeah, well, that's about the size of it. Of course, they got married next year on Christmas Eve, 1 year after they met. They're now very happy, those two. And now, if you should ever need some very fine leather goods or anything in the novelty line,
Hearts on fire, fire gets higher, so I can weather the storm. What do I care how much it may storm? I've got my love, I've got my love, I've got my love to keep me warm.
Thank you. While you've been enjoying the shop around the corner, I've been busy learning to be an authority on gas. For instance, I've been finding out about the new Gulf gasolines, Good Gulf and Gulf No Nox, and I learned that they've both been stepped up. Stepped up to give you faster pickup, more power, and a sweeter running, quieter engine. And boy, if you've never tried Gulf gasolines, you don't know what you're missing. See if you don't notice a real difference the first time you step on the accelerator. If you use a regular gasoline, try Good Gulf. If you prefer a premium fuel, try Gulf No Nox, the gasoline that is knock-proof under all normal driving conditions. Remember, you get either one with the sign of the Gulf orange disc. Drive in and fill up with America's stepped-up gasolines, the new Gulf gasolines. Next week, the stars of the Gulf Theater will present what happens to them on a rubber plantation in Indochina, their dramatic story of red dust. We hope you'll all be listening to the Gulf Theater next week. Until then, good night, everybody, from your neighborhood good Gulf dealer.